Hello and welcome to All Stats Aren't We, a podcast in which Leeds fans cast their combined eye over goings on at Ellen Road, giving scrutiny to the underlying statistics and tactical footings at work at Leeds United. I'm Adam Elliott and I'm joined today by Martin Riley, and as ever, it's also Thomas, Hosty Cundell. That's how we say it, right?
Yeah, I think that's about right. Yeah, Tom Hosty Cundell, whichever way you want to say. Yeah.
How are you doing? What have you had for tea?
Yeah, not too bad. I've had pesto chicken and tortellini, tomato and mozzarella tortellini. So yeah, very very nice, very good, very quick and easy to have because I didn't get home until around about 6:20 just due to some train trouble from the office today. So yeah, how about yourself?
Yeah, you had my classic pesto pasta, and I had instead a sausage pasta rigatoni type of thing that I made, and it was delicious. So very happy from that.
I've not had rigatoni as a pasta shape for a while.
I pretty much have it all the time. It's my main one, my main go-to. So love it. Yeah, and Thursday today, so I was off work, and I loved it. I had a lot of time to myself to cook, so that's why I did that. Martin, you all right?
Yeah, I'm doing good. I had a homemade chili con carne with loads of mixed beans in it. I'm really on a mixed beans kick at the moment. So I had all sorts of beans in there with some beef. And yeah, it's one of my favourite meals, is chili con carne. I love Mexican food in general, so I'm doing pretty well.
I feel like you said beans so much then for some reason.
Beans.
just some beans.
It's a musical fruit.
It's
fair.
Great. Very good for you. One of the superfoods, isn't it? So, congratulations. Yeah, we're going to keep this short and sweet, this opening, because we're here today, as you'll have seen from the title, to discuss quite a lot of different things. Before we get into all of that, I must remind you all, first of all, if you're listening on any of the podcast players, to drop us a review. Second of all, go onto YouTube right now and subscribe to us and watch the video and like it. It doesn't matter if you don't want to watch it all the way through, but watch some of it, like it, whatever. It's going to really help us out. We are on YouTube now. I think the Newcastle review is up now, Hosty, isn't it?
No.
Or is it tonight?
It'll go up after this. Yeah, as I said, I got home late because I forgot that I'd agreed to go into my co-working space today when I woke up this morning. So yeah, hopefully I'll get it done tonight after we've recorded this, and it'll be up. It'll be up by the weekend at least, at the latest.
Co-working space, by the way.
Yeah.
Utter woke nonsense. I'm not having it. But anyway, it is a bonus podcast. A bonus podcast that will be on the main feed for once. So Patreon subscribers will have other stuff for you soon. But this one has to go out to everyone, I think. And it's looking at the state of the Leeds squad now that the window has closed. The post-window squad audit, as you might prefer to call it. And yeah, we'll just go over each position and see how happy we are with each and every member of the squad in each and every position and where we're at and what's left. But yeah, let's first discuss deadline day in a bit more detail, because Martin and I started to talk about it a bit the other night, but decided it's probably best to do it here with other people involved. And yeah, it wasn't the greatest end to the window, let's put it that way. We went into the final day with Daniel Farke's expectations being made pretty clear. He wanted at least one, but he actually said in his own words he wanted two players in the attacking areas, ideally. And we didn't get any of them. We didn't even get one, which I think we'll come on to talk about, but I think a lot of us would have been pretty happy with one, but not to get it and not to get a second one at all. It's a disappointment for sure. In particular, he did mention, not just in the last week, but the week before that as well, the need for a bit more creativity. He kind of talks about a hybrid profile. A player that he used in the past in that kind of role is Emi Buendia, of course, who's a winger that can play as a number 10 or a 10 that can play as a winger, whichever way around you want to put it. Basically the playmaker of the team, basically the creative hub of the team. We didn't get that, Tom. So, yeah, what the hell happened?
I think, it wasn't through a want of trying, and I know that there's that We Tried FC kind of crap.
Sign 10 players, we can't be doing this bullshit. Yeah. Sorry, I'm going to get
annoyed. But you can't account for Fulham not signing a deal sheet. You can't account for Buonanotte having his medical booked and prepared to fly out on Thursday night, and then Chelsea going, oh, hang on a minute, do you want to come play Champions League football? And then them not putting him in his Champions League squad, right, and being absolute dicks. As Leeds, you can't account for that. and that's out of our hands at that point of when they've done everything that they can do, really, apart from go for different players potentially.
But it's like annoying when you get that far down the line with the transfer, right?
Yeah,
and it looks sewn up, and then it's not.
Yeah, exactly. And you've got that far down the line. You interrupt me and throw me off now. But yeah, and so they probably had other players that maybe were of interest to them, but we'll get into it regarding kind of like the build of the squad, and it could have been that they had a player that they could have got, right? Maybe they could have just got a body who could play right wing, but he couldn't do the creativity side of things, and he's just kind of like a Okafor style player or a better Dan James version who can just take the ball on and get a crossing. Wouldn't have balanced out the squad, but it would have been a new player. So I think they've decided that's not what they're going to do. They're not just going to get the best players that are available in that position. They want to build a squad that's going to function correctly. I think you look at the Robbie Evans piece, I think he kind of touches on that. That's kind of how they've shaped things with Pichau and Muniz not being brought in, and how they were actually going to do that was by selling other players. So, when they couldn't get Pichau or Muniz, they've gone, right, okay, we're not going to sell anyone. The strategy now is to go for DCL, who we believe is the number one priority of a free transfer if we're going down this route of not getting them. And we're going to go with this winger profile and this winger profile, try and get a 10 wide right, 10 creative player who can add some goals, which I think we agreed Buonanotte and Wilson could have. And so, yeah, for me, I'm not as down on the window as I think a lot of others are. I can understand the frustration of not getting that player in. But if you told me that we'd target to get 11 players and we'd get 10 in, I'd probably say that's great. I think because we probably consider that 11th player that's missed to have been so important to the side is probably something which is causing a lot of worry amongst fans. And then, I think the next sort of step is that we just have to accept it now.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen, just to talk about the last bit you said there, I've seen quite a lot of people say, what's the head loss over Harry Wilson for? But I actually agree with you. It's because of how important that profile would have been. The way I see it, and I think the club see it the same, is that Okafor is your runner. Calvert-Lewin is your big, hold it up, battering ram kind of striker. And then on the other side, you've got your creative player, and that's your front three. And then you can keep that three in the middle solid as a central midfield trio. But we didn't get the right winger. So it does mean that the attack maybe doesn't quite function the way you're hoping. So we'll see. There were a few names that weren't just Wilson and Buonanotte, of course. There was Bakwa, who I think is somewhat similar, or probably slightly more towards the winger side of things, but is at least a creative winger. He's got more assists and goals in his career, is a set-piece taker, is left-footed, so he would have rebalanced things a little bit nicer there. There was Buendia, who's not left-footed like those other three, but he is obviously of the kind of profile for that kind of flank and will work that way, and will... I think all the square ball boys call it the Pablo false 7 role. That's kind of what it would have been like if we'd got one of those kinds. So I'm gutted that we didn't. And I also don't really have too much sympathy for the club. I'm a little bit harsher than you maybe because, we had a whole window to get it. We didn't quite get it. It feels like it was left late. Buonanotte not happening. I can understand why that's frustrating because then you have to scramble a little bit for the last few days. But it shouldn't have had to come down to that. In my opinion, maybe I'm being harsh. I would have liked Wilson or someone else over the line in those final. I think it was 4 days before we heard about Buonanotte before the line. And I know that's not loads of time, but I just thought we'd get at least one. I was really confident we would get someone, even if it wasn't perfect. And then I heard Wilson, and actually I was quite up on that personally. I thought that will work. I can see why they're going for that. I think that really adds quite a lot of balance to the front three. But here we are, and also with Wilson. Just go on, one last thing.
Yeah, but again with that, it looks like the reason that the Wilson transfer didn't happen is because they didn't get Tyreek George in the end.
Yeah.
So how can we control that? We can't force them to sell him over the weekend while they're trying to say, well, let us get someone in first.
Yeah, they managed to get two of
that's out
the
of our
three
hands.
they wanted.
Yeah,
Fulham didn't quite get the third. Yeah, it's annoying.
So we should, again, that's what I mean. Like, at that point, should we have moved on? I can take that as a should we have moved on, but maybe another player just was not available in that mold that we wanted, right? Who we saw as being valuable to bring in. Yeah.
And I want to just say one last thing on Wilson, and then I'll pass over to you, Martin. And that's to say, I really like the profile. I think he would have been able to play the right side of the three. He's really good off the ball as well. He's a very hard worker, very industrious. I was talking to a Welsh Leeds fan that I know who, he's obviously watched loads of him and he loves him. He says how hard he works. But also, he would have given us the option in some games to play a 4-2-3-1 again and to play him as a number 10, because he's definitely played that role for a few different clubs, for his national team, for Cardiff. He was really good there a few seasons back, got a lot of assists in that role, and we could have played an extra winger then. So it gave you some versatility in the front three as well, front four, as well. So a big shame in that sense. And the bigger thing with him is, and Buonanotte, is that they're both set piece takers, and we didn't add one. And I'm really gutted about that, because even though
we're getting a set piece coach, it's fine.
Yeah, that'll help a little bit. It sure will. But Anton Stach is clearly a good player for them. But I would have liked a left footer who's a bit different, like Buonanotte, like Wilson. So I'm gutted that we didn't get that. And that would have made the window very strong. And I'm sure we'll come on to talk about that later on as well. Martin, what are your thoughts on the whole situation on deadline day?
So just to answer one of the things, just about why did we leave it so late? And I think if you look at a lot of the clubs in the Premier League, a lot of business was done on deadline day. And I think that's especially with the clubs towards the bottom end. I think most clubs were active on deadline day. Adam, you're in a position to say for sure. You cover it in more detail.
Sunderland signed three.
So was there any other clubs that you'd expect to be around the bottom end who didn't make signings on deadline day? Was that many?
I'll look while you keep talking.
Yeah. I mean, I've been trying to pull it up, but there's nowhere which is like easy to look at, and loads of words, so it's hard to figure out who went where and what. But so the way I think it is, like, there's so much business which happens on deadline day because clubs and players, maybe players more, are waiting as long to say whether they would be interested in the move because they're hoping for better clubs to become available. And ourselves, we're not one of the clubs in the Premier League who players would look at and think, yeah, all right, yeah, they're going to be my best option. They'll be wanting more of a mid-table club if someone we're targeting. That's the sort of level of players we're looking at, really, isn't it? Mid-table players, if we can, or lower to mid-table teams, like players who you should expect to be able to keep you in the Premier League, but not necessarily be a massive star in the league, if that makes sense. So I think that's why we left it as late as we did. A lot of things can be out of your control, and I think a lot of it hinges on the fact that Buonanotte went to Chelsea when he did. Because if that signing had happened then we wouldn't have been scrambling around as much, and then we potentially could have looked for another player on deadline day who wasn't that player. So this is why I think it's said us often how difficult football transfers are, and I think a lot of people necessarily don't realise how difficult and how many barriers there are in the way of signing players early. And we have got a lot of business done this window as well. Just to, like Hosty said, getting 10 out of 11, maybe 12 if you want to be really fussy, players in is a result for me. Deadline day was disappointing, and I'm not going to lie. When I saw that Wilson was a target, I was quite happy because I feel that he is the right profile. He's got experience. He's friends with a lot of our players already, Welsh nationals and all that. So for me, that would have been as good as Buonanotte. Maybe he's not quite the in the tangible side of things. Maybe he doesn't have the same attributes, same ceiling that Buonanotte has. But I think in intangible sense and team fit, he would have been a perfect signing for us. So that put him level for me. So a lot of people were turning their nose up when we heard it was looking at Wilson, but I wasn't. He's not been a regular player at Fulham for a few years now, really, has he? He's been sort of on the fringes, not playing all the time, playing the odd game here and there. Not saying he wasn't in the side at all, but he still has numbers in the last few years, goals and assists.
Sorry to interrupt, just a quick one. If you're enjoying the video, be sure to like and subscribe to help us keep the content coming. And if you want even more, you can support us over on patreon.com/ASAW Patreon. You'll get bonus podcasts, exclusive articles, and access to our Discord community, all while helping us make more of the content you love. Thanks. Now let's get back to it.
So if he was able to go somewhere where he had more game time, that just, for me, would have translated up a bit. So I was really disappointed that one didn't happen. But yeah, I can understand the head loss from a lot of the fan base. Seeing clubs like Sunderland bringing 3 players on deadline day and us not bringing in any, for instance. I can totally understand the frustration. But we have to look at it that we did a decent job with all of a good job with all the other signings. I'm really happy with all the signings who we've made. And it's not the end of the world. It makes our chances a little bit more difficult because we don't have that complete profiles in the attack. We don't have that quality set piece taker who we all wanted. And that could mean we've got a problem with scoring goals and less creativity. But I think some people probably still would have been annoyed, even if we had got that, because some people don't consider DCL a good enough forward for this league. People don't consider Okafor to be a good enough level of player because of his fitness issues. So I think even if we had got some of these signings, some people still would have been saying, but where's the goals? Yeah, we've got creativity now, but where's the goals? I think people may have still been saying that. It's hard to please football fans, and especially Leeds fans.
Yeah, totally right. And just to go back to what you were asking, in terms of deadline day deals, Sunderland did 3, Brentford did 1, Reece Nelson, Wolves did 1, Tolu.
My boy.
Florentino Luis went to Burnley, and West Ham signed Igor. I can't think of any other teams that are going to be definitively down there with us. I mean, like Fulham signed 2 players. We know about that. They didn't get the third that they needed. So I can't think of anyone else that I would definitely say is going to be in relegation trouble. So they all were active and we weren't. So it's a shame. And I agree with you, Wilson. I think ticked a lot of boxes and would have actually rounded off a pretty strong window. We'll talk later if we would have wanted more than that, but for now, we'll move on. I wanted to talk about outgoings because we haven't really had the chance to do that. And I don't want to talk about them all, so let's not go through each one. We don't need to do that. we only sold 2 players for money, first of all, which is Rasmus Christensen and Sam Greenwood. And I guess one talking point here, maybe to start with, is the club's ability to sell players. Now, this is an interesting one because I think we know, and I think the fan base have started to learn and pick up on this, that quite a lot of players that we had at the club over the last few years are on pretty ridiculous contracts from the previous regime, whether that's release clauses and loan clauses, which we're very fully aware of, that we've had to deal with over the last few seasons, but also just some players on ridiculous wages relative to the level of player that they are. And it makes them hard to shift. And so I will give the club a bit of credit in that sense because I don't think it was easy to shift Sam Greenwood and they managed to do it. Darko JB, I think he was on a pretty decent wage coming from Man City, and we've now got a 50%, sell on for Hull. I think that might actually end up working out okay for us if he does well for them. So for me, it's maybe the talking points are mostly, we talked about a few of these already that I'm looking at. Probably Mateo Joseph. We never got the chance to speak about that, so maybe quickly on that. I think that's not a great loan for him in the sense that it's great that he's going to La Liga and I hope he plays well for them with Mallorca, but they didn't score a lot of goals last season. So I don't think he's suddenly going to be a team. They're going to be suddenly a team and he's going to suddenly be a player that scores loads and loads of goals. I don't think that's the way they're set up under their current coach. So I'm a little bit with that one. But at the same time, it's interesting, isn't it? A lot of the fan base are quite low on him, and maybe rightly so from January onwards when I think all of us at All Stats were pretty high on his ability to lead the line, even if he wasn't always scoring. But I genuinely do think he lacked confidence in the second half of the season and the ball was bouncing off him and all sorts. So I could totally understand why some people aren't keen on him, but, he's forced his way out. He's got a loan to La Liga, Tom, and I guess we all have to hope he does quite well because it is a straight loan. There's no option to buy, there's no obligation to buy anything like that. So, yeah, hopefully it does well.
Yeah, I think it's one of those where it was probably the other teams wanted obligations that were too small and didn't make it worth it in our eyes straight up off the bat. and because he'd forced his way, we kind of like had to find something which would work for us financially. And I get the feeling that Mallorca was probably that that choice. But yeah, I don't know too much about it. I haven't looked too much at Mallorca like you may have. They didn't. I'm guessing that they didn't create a lot as well. Like, was it just that they didn't have a finisher as to why they didn't score a lot of goals? Is all I'm thinking. But did they simply not create a lot as well?
I think they were basically a good defensive team. They didn't concede a lot, they didn't create a lot, and they ended up having a mid-table season just by being one of the dullest teams in the league. They didn't score or concede very many.
Yeah, I mean, like, it might be a good experience for him just to have that 1 year in football, though, as well, being up against, having a full season where he is the main man within the squad will be beneficial either way, I think. And even if, like, let's say he only gets 6 goals, but maybe that puts him as the double amount of the player in second, and he only had something like 4.8 XG because of how Mallorca set up or whatever. Like, 6 goals for that will be beneficial and put him in a good stead, right?
Yeah. And like I said, it's interesting that a lot of the fan base are down on him, Martin, but he managed to get himself not a second division loan, top division in Spain.
Yeah, exactly. That speaks a lot, because if a football club can look at a player who barely played last season, didn't score a bunch of goals, and want to take him on loan a division up from where he was last playing, that speaks that there was something to his appearances that they saw last season. So, he can offer us something. I don't think he will be a regular player there, if I'm totally honest. They've got someone who's a bit more experienced in Vedat Muriqi as their main striker there, who wasn't clinical last season. He had 9.7 XG and scored 7 goals from that. So not a really bad underperformance, but it is still a moderate level of underperformance. So I think he's probably gone in there to be a backup to Muriqi, and who knows if he can impress off the bench or from some starting. I know one of their strikers got sent off in the opening day, I think, if I remember correctly.
He also started, I don't know if this was linked to that, but he started against Real Madrid, and I actually watched about 60 minutes of it.
How did he do?
Not great.
Well, it is Real Madrid, so he's never going to do well. Imagine just playing your last minutes in the Championship against your Prestons and your Stokes, and then stepping up to Real Madrid's defence. Wow, that would be some some mountain to climb. But yeah, I do hope he really does well. I'm very glad that there isn't an obligation or even an option on there. It means that if he does well, he can come back to us. Who knows what happens with Daniel Farke this season, because we know Daniel Farke isn't a fan of his. So maybe potentially a future manager may like more of what Joseph offers and may give him more game time. But we'll have to see how...
Leeds fans listening, by the way, that aren't keen on what you're saying there because of how he's acted and behaved to get out of the club.
I don't care about that stuff.
I agree with that. I think it's... You get one career and you take what you get. He's got 3 years on his contract here, so he's still going to have a decision. We're going to have a decision, and he's going to have a decision to make next summer, and it might all be very different, like you said. Go on, Hosty.
I think he will be... Go on, Hosty.
I think I know why he ended up at Mallorca.
Go on.
The owners are Andy Kohlberg, Steve Nash, Steve Kerr, and Stu Holden are the owners of Mallorca. So for those who don't know, Steve Nash is a Canadian basketball, used to be a head coach in the NBA. Steve Kerr also used to be a coach in the NBA and is an all-star. What I'm saying here is it sounds like someone might have been friends with them in our ownership group.
Oh, really?
And said, can you please take him? Yeah, that's kind of where I'm thinking potentially this has happened.
That's
how very core of you. Very core.
Well, that's maybe one part of it. The other part of it is he is a Mallorca youth player that we signed.
We signed him from Barcelona, didn't we? Or Espanyol. We signed him from Espanyol.
Oh, was it Espanyol?
Yeah, I think it's Espanyol.
I remember it being Barcelona this side.
I'm going to look that up too. I've been...
But yeah, what I was going to say before Hosty said that. No, it's gone. But I do hope he does well and he can come back to us, because we know that Daniel Farke wasn't his biggest fan, and I think maybe another manager may be more convinced on him if he has a decent spell in the Liga.
Yeah, and I think the same, Martin, can be said of the other player that headed to La Liga. Again, really interesting, isn't it, that we had so many players looking down this list. And, I mean, Sam Greenwood went to the Polish top flight. I'm not saying much about that, but Verpo got a move to La Liga. Verba got a move to the Bundesliga. Isaac Schmidt got a move to the same club in the Bundesliga. Joseph got a move to La Liga. And then, obviously, the main one I want to talk about to end this section is Laji Ramazani, which I think, for me, and I think you probably both will agree, even though you're a little bit more positive than I am, I think the frustration is not signing a Wilson or a Buonanotte when you sanctioned the move for Ramazani. However, with that said, just before you answer, Martin, I'm fully aware that there could have been a conversation behind the scenes, or Farke could have made it quite clear Ramazani, even if we don't sign Wilson or Buonanotte, is quite far down the pecking order now. Probably why he needed to go. And honestly, I like this move for him. I don't know about you. I genuinely like this loan, and there's no option or obligation again, so it's another one that works for us favourably.
It's a fantastic loan for him.
Yeah.
He's moving to a good club in the Liga under a very, very good manager who we all love in Corberan. Yeah, it's going to be nothing but good things for Ramazani and for us, because I think he will have a good year of development over there. And I think with regards to the thing of keeping hold of him, that was also one of my thoughts, like, why didn't we keep hold of him until we'd confirmed that other winger in? But we all know Farke's opinion on him. We know he doesn't rate him. I think he's an idiot for it, but he was never going to get minutes for us. And I do think that Farke will have made it quite clear. Let him go, it's fine. I'm never going to play him. I think that's generally what it is. It speaks volumes in the presser after Ramazani had gone, when he was asked about Ramazani. Just the pause that he did before he answered the question spoke quite a bit, just because I think he was kind of walking on eggshells. I don't think the transfer had actually been confirmed by that presser yet. I don't think.
No, I think it was like an hour or later or something.
Yeah, so I don't think it had been fully confirmed. So for me, it seemed like he didn't want to say anything negative about Ramazani, and in case it could potentially scupper the deal, because he wanted him gone. He wasn't going to play him. I don't understand why, because all we saw from him last season was good things whenever he played. And was he not the Championship's highest per 90 goal scorer?
If you include assists as well, I think, yeah.
Yeah, that's it, goals and assists. So yeah, so the all champion, I think it's something like 0.7 per 90, I think he was averaging, which is ridiculous. I know obviously minutes and goals he scored were off the bench and stuff like that, but still, he's obviously impressed to get a big move, because it's not like Valencia are one of the clubs down the bottom end of La Liga. They're a very reputable club in Spain, and it's a very good move for him. So I wish him all the best, and I hope he smashes it and comes back to us and rubs maybe not Daniel Farke's nose, depending on how well we do this season. But that will be quite funny.
I think it's a win-win, Hosty, because he's either going to do mediocre and be back with us in some capacity, probably won't have lost value, and we'll have a player that we can use either next season in the Championship or in the Premier League, depending on who our manager is, of course. Or what's more likely is he does quite well in some capacity of well, whether that's a lot of goals and assists or that's just some. And he increases his value. He's got a year less on his contract with PSR, and we can sell him for more, or we can reintegrate him again because he's someone who we might have more of a shining to with a different manager. So I think it's a win-win, personally. I don't really see a major downside to this unless Corberan really falls out with him or something and then he doesn't play him. But I don't think that's likely. So I'm really happy for him. I hope you are.
Yeah, I think it's a good move. There's nothing else really to add from either of what you two have said. Yeah, he got an assist on his debut. That was great to see. Yeah, I hope it goes well. I want it to go well, and the best bit is without the obligation or option that Valencia has. If it goes really well and we get relegated, we've probably got a nice little saleable asset straight away. Yeah. And he doesn't even have to come back. And I don't mean this in a bad way, but he might not even need to be integrated. He might be someone that can fund a window for next year.
Yeah, exactly that. So I totally agree. and he needed to play. You know, it's a World Cup year. There is an outside chance he could get in the squad for Belgium at least if he does well. And like you say, Martin, I just want to say one last thing on this. Like, there are so many of our fans, no offense to them, that don't like him or rate him for whatever reason it is, and I don't understand it. If you watch football and you watch Ramazani and you watch Harrison or Aronson or something like that, and you can't see that he's a better overall footballer, I don't know what to tell you. You might say that, well, he's not as good as them out of possession and off the ball. I agree with you, but that doesn't mean he's not a better footballer. He's a really, really good footballer, a really quick footballer, a really quick thinking footballer. There's so much to like about him. It's a shame he's not going to be with us, especially because we didn't sign someone, but I also agree that, Falk probably wouldn't have played him much anyway, regardless.